Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to update you on our ecoowl project. So that's the little project to create a radiation sensor and a general purpose sensor for environmental use. So when we talked last, I think we had the sensor and the thing based in this box configuration with the Raspberry Pi and the LED LED to give us an indicator of what's going on. Okay, when I was testing that and with some feedback, I found that the LED ring, it didn't really cut it to really show you what was going on if there was a problem. It was a little difficult to communicate to the user what was going on. So basically I did, me and Jan have been talking about different ways of making the system. So I thought I'd leapfrog a little bit and head towards the system that we're aiming for. So anyway, without further ado, I'll show you the brand new system. So out with the old. The box is still very much part of the system. We'll be using that for testing in environments when we need it. Okay, so here we are. Here's the new boxes. So basically, similar architecture, as you can see quite obviously on this one. I've used a Raspberry Pi, exactly as I did with the previous version of it. Okay, so originally I wanted to make it quite small. So what I've done is I actually made this one first, the small one. This is made with a Raspberry Pi Zero. It's got a small, so let me just show you the parts of it. It's got a key little joystick pad here. It's got a screen, 2 keys. Okay, it has 3 USB, standard USB, so these are for sensors. So you can plug up the 3 sensors obviously in this configuration. And then it has another USB on this side for power, so your power, it doesn't have batteries. I thought that it was easier to leave the batteries, I'll talk about batteries later. And then on the back we have a camera and we have a time of flight sensor. So that basically this is a distance measuring radar. So the idea being is that we can measure the distance from the object that we are when we're and we can take a photo of the object. So if we find something hot in the field or something interesting with some pollution, we can take a photo and record it. Okay, the problem with this is that I had with this little unit was the processor in here is a single core processor, so it's not as powerful as a standard Raspberry Pi. So what I found is that it was using up to, well, initially it was using up to 90% of the of the processor, and then I rewrote the code to make it a little bit more efficient, and it was still using around 70-60% of the processor. So for me, I didn't like that. It really sort of limited what we were doing, and because we're using Python and not a strict interrupt-based, hardware-based approach, I think we really need some hardware, some hardware slack so that the software can work properly. So so in the end I thought, okay, I'll have to just revert to the thing that I have been building it on, which is a normal Raspberry Pi. So I redid the case. So anyway, this is the little mini one. This is very much could still have a use. I think you could take the USB ports off and make an interesting little camera using the Wi-Fi and streaming, etc. Anyway, so that one there's in the pocket for later use. But the one we're concentrating on and we're using is this one. This one's built around a standard Raspberry Pi. I've put the same screen on there. The screen's available off the shelf from Adafruit, so nothing too special there. At the back I've put the camera and the laser sensor again. Once again, this is available from Adafruit, so those guys really are so helpful with their code and things. I think it's well worth supporting them. Okay, and then I've just basically created a 3D case. Some little notes with this 3D case. You'll see that the screen is a little misaligned here. and I've drilled a hole rather crudely here. uh, and yeah, this is because basically I've got to get this shipped very shortly, and I've run out of the green filament, so I don't want to print another one. Basically, I've ran out of time, despite having worked on it for close on 3 or 4 months. I've run out of time, but primarily because I had to change in the last week from this to this because the testing of the smaller one wasn't to my satisfaction, so I thought I'd go a bit bigger. So please excuse those small design flaws in this very first one if you get to play with it. But that's the way it is. Okay, so anyway, enough of the negativity. Let me show you how this works. Okay, so once again, it's a standard Raspberry Pi. We have 4 USB ports, 1 network port. On the back again, we have the camera, the time of flight sensor. Here we have the USB port where we can plug the power in. We have a small hole that I've rather crudely drilled in the top here to allow you to see the LEDs, so you can get a bit of an indicator of what's happening. Generally, I try to show you on the screen what's happening, but because it's an operating system, until the operating system gives me control, we're still waiting for the operating system. So I can't really indicate anything on the screen, so you'll just have to watch the LEDs. But hopefully that should. This is extreme fault finding. If something goes wrong, that's what I'm always thinking of. What happens if I get a call in the morning? You're out in the middle of somewhere where you've spent a lot of money flying to get, and this thing doesn't work, and which I hope never happens, but if it does, I want to have some way of getting some feedback. Okay, so anyway, that's the little unit. I think this is a better approach than the smaller one myself, because in the scheme we were talking about sharing and allowing other people access to the technology, and I think just being able to buy a standard Raspberry Pi is a great thing. So really this could work on any standard Raspberry Pi. The secret's in the software. The software is what drives it all. Anyway, without further ado, let's get talking about the software. Okay, so let's talk about a basic system. A system that we're going to use consists of the logging unit, and then we have a GPS, and of course the star of the show, the Chromtech detector. Okay, so I'm just going to plug these in, so they can plug into any USB port. They're not really important. The software will detect where they are. I always get it mixed up with these right angle things. Okay, there we go. And then I'm just going to plug the power in. Oops, which way does that go again? That goes this way. Okay, so now we can see that it's on, and the way we can see that it's on is that the little red light inside the hole there is light lit. There we go, red. And you'll see a bit of green sometimes. Can you see a little green flicker there? There we go. And that's just telling you that it's reading the disk. Okay, so the program's starting now. It's looking for the sensors, it's looking for the GPS, and now you can see it's starting the program, and it goes on the screen, and very quickly you've missed it there, but it does a very simple self-test. It goes through sequentially checking things, and if it stops at any point, that's when you'll know that the error is, and at this moment it's probably the time you'd call me. Okay, the screen's a little blurry, so I'm not going to show you what's on the screen just at this moment, but I'm just going to show you the system, how it works. So basically, we're getting spectrum from here, we're getting GPS from here, it's combining it. This is a complete system. This will work as it is. It doesn't need any external network. It will work just as it is, and you can control it completely by the button. Okay, so now I'm going to try to focus the screen here. This might not be successful, but we'll see. And I'm going to try to show you what the button's up to. So, let me see there. Okay, that's probably not too bad. Okay, so it's a bit blurry for you guys, but you'll get the idea. So you can see that the counts, I've got to count the top one. The second one is the distance. So you'll see that I'm about around 300 millimeters from the top of my bench. If I go down here, you'll just be able to see it go to single digits. But you'll see the thing. So basically, that's a laser measurer from the distance, from the object that's below the sensor. And then I've got a region of interest there, which is defined in the software. And then I've got a little line telling you what the region of interest is. Okay, so everything's controlled by this button. So simply you push it to the left and it will change screen. So here I'm going the logging screen, GPS screen. This is telling me something about the sensor. This is telling me about the system and the resources that are being used. Sorry about the camera alignment there. And this one's just telling you about the system itself. Okay, so let's just go back to the count one. So you can see the counting happening there. Okay, so the next thing, you can use this both ways, back or forward. Okay, pretty simple. The next thing that you can do is you can turn, the only other thing you really want to be able to do is look at what's happening. And the next thing you want to be able to do, of course, is just to do some logging. Okay, so to turn logging on, you just pull the key down. So I'm just going to push it down, but normally you'd pull it because I'm doing it for the camera. Okay, so you can see that it started logging there. You can see that it's created a logging file name. Well, you can see the blur of a logging file name, and you may be able to see the blur of the number of logs changing. Okay, that's pretty simple. The other thing you can do when it's logging or not is you can pull this lever up, and you'll see that it takes a photo. So you can see now that it's got images and it's got a 1 there. So I've taken a picture of my beautiful desk here. But on that picture is also overlaid the position, the GPS obviously, the counts, the region of interest. So if you find something interesting that you want to record, you can just simply take a photo like that. And measuring the distance, and I'll show you in the handheld mode how all this comes together very nicely. Well, in my opinion. Okay, the only other thing, so that's the control so far. So that's left or right to change screen, press it down to start logging, press it up to take a picture. Okay, so how do you stop logging? Okay, that's pretty simple. You just press and hold the on button. Oop. Hopefully without moving to the left or right, so it doesn't go to the wrong screen. It doesn't matter actually what screen it's on. The button will work regardless, but I just want to show you what's happening. Okay, so I'm going to try to hold that button down by pushing it directly down, not to the side like I was before. For me it's a little difficult because I'm trying to do this with a camera as well. And then I hold that down, and then the logging gets turned off. And that's pretty well the user interface. I want to turn logging on again, I can press the button down and start logging, take a photo, change screen, turn logging off by pressing and holding the middle button, and that's it. Okay, now when I'm finished for the day, or I finish for my time, or I want to change batteries, once again we'll talk about batteries in a little bit, all we do is just basically press and hold this button, and if it was logging it would obviously shut the logging off, and now you can see it's starting. Well, you may be able to see a blur of a countdown screen. It's counting down. I'm holding the button. This is a little long perhaps, and then it just says bye, sayonara, and then you'll see the lights here flashing away. That means the system's still shutting itself down. So this is where the operating system business comes into effect. And now we've just got the red light there. So obviously I'm talking about the little light in the corner here. We've just got the red light. That means the system's shut down and it's quite safe to take the power off. So that's the safe, recommended, highly recommended way of shutting the system down. But it doesn't matter. If you shut the system down by pulling or you lose the power, it will recover because it's reasonably robust. That's not guaranteed, but generally it will. Okay, so when you start the system, you have to remember that it's running an operating system. So it takes a little while at the beginning, and it takes a little longer when there's no network because it searches for a network, and it will take a little longer still if you've lost power before because it will go through a disk checking routine. So when it's starting, just be a little bit patient. That could sometimes take up to 2-3 minutes maybe. So just be patient. If it this is to do with the operating system. I still haven't quite worked. I'm normally an embedded programmer where I control the hardware, the silicon, so it's a lot easier. But because there's an operating system, we have to, have some, there's some give for that. Okay, but anyway, what I'm going to do is take a little pause. I'm going to configure this in handheld mode. In fact, before I do that, I'm going to talk to you about handheld mode. Okay, so what the idea was is that you saw the lunchbox. The idea of the lunchbox is, in fact, I think I can just do all this live. The idea of the lunchbox was just a nice waterproof thing. Okay, but if we wanted to use it in a handheld mode, so I've come up with this little, made this little thing. So basically, it's a little holder for the sensor. And then below that, it's a battery pack. Okay, so I've used these batteries here. These are little just power banks, really easily available. I think 2 hours. I think you can run the system for, depending on what's going on, but roughly 2 hours. So that basically inserts. So you can see the power there. It simply inserts in here. Boink. And that's the power. That's the handheld for the thing. To get the power out, you just simply pull down the little spring here and push with your finger. In fact, maybe if I do that this way in reverse, so pushing this side, and here's the little spring. I just lift that up and I pull the power thing out. So that's the power system there. Pretty cool. Well, I think it's pretty cool. Okay, so the other thing that we can do is that we can actually mount this on the side. You'll see here there's a screw hole with a washer recess, and then there's a little screw that we can mount here, and then it lets us move this around. Then with the GPS, there's a little okay, then we can put the sensor in the box like this, quite simply. Then the GPS, we have a little GPS holder. We can put the GPS holder over the top here, and then put the GPS on top here. And there we are with this stuck on the side. Sorry, I'm just going to pretend to do that. I'll make a little video on how to screw this up to the side in a little bit, but I'll let your imagination run wild for a second. And then here we are. We have the handheld logger, so you can basically walk around and hold it like this. Use your thumb to operate it. Take photos, move around. Yeah, really quite flexible, really. People always talk about waterproofing. If you wanted this is not waterproof. This is a 3D case. The idea is to make it so that other people can make it themselves. But if you wanted to waterproof it, you could just put a bag over the top, clear plastic bag. Sometimes the low-tech solution's the best. So that's how you put that together. I'll do a little video on how to bolt the system together very shortly, but I think that's enough for now that you can see how that works. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the system on. I'm going to do this in real time, which might be slightly tedious, but I don't think it'll take very long. I'll just give you an idea of how quickly it starts, and while it's starting, I'll do a little talk about batteries. Okay, so let me plug this in. There we go. So once again, we see the little red light come on, telling us it's got some power, and then it's going to start up soon. Okay, so in the background here, I have my little TP-Link. You've seen me do the talk on this before. With the exception, I don't have my SIM card in, so I'm not going to worry about the SIM card in this case. But I use this as oh sorry, let me show you the screen started up. Boom. And there we go, off we go. So this here is basically a just the router for it. Okay, but that's a little bit important. So this is pre-configured to connect to this. So if you turn this on, this will connect to it. If you don't have this turn on, it doesn't care. It'll still work. But the thing is, when you turn this on, you get a lot of capability. Okay, you get the ability to use your mobile to control the unit. Okay, so let me show you how that works. Okay, so once again, I've just turned this on with these two plugged in. I've got this turned on somewhere next to it. This here, I think it's meant to last 8 hours of batteries. If you've got the SIM card out, you'll probably get close to 6, maybe. Maybe with the SIM card in, you'll get 4. Who knows? But with all these, they all use the same standard USB. So, you should just be able to use your just your standard phone stuff. Okay, so we've turned that on. Now we are ready to have a look at our website. Let me just load our website up nicely. Okay. So I've just noticed that always with these things, there's a million things to test and debug, but I've just noticed that it's missing some of the style sheet that it should have because it's completely offline. So this is the offline version. Anyway, let me change page so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got okay, now I need to fix that because these things should look as a menu. But anyway, we can explain what's going on for now, and I will redo this part of the video at some point. Okay, so anyway, the little green box that you saw previously also is a web server. So it has 2 web servers, in fact. One of them is the system web server that we're looking at now, which basically shows you what's on that screen, really. You can see the time. This is UTM time. Everything here is just UTM time. I think that because things traveling around the world, it's so confusing to have times and offsets. UTM time's easy. We've always got position, so UTM time plus position will easily be able to work out local time if need be. But it just saves total confusion. Okay, so next one is the counts from the machine, the distance from the desk, and I think that is, yep, the distance from the desk, which is on the desk, and then the log count, and then the positions here. I'm going to have to redo this part of the video, but I'm just going to keep this in for now because I want to get this out to someone very quickly. Okay, the next one is the logging. So here, with the logging, we can very simply just put in a tag for the log. So like let's put a demo, and then I'll start logging. Press the start logging button. Then you'll see that the log count starts incrementing over. If I was to switch back to the screen, you'll see on the little screen the name of the logging there. I can also take an image as well. So I'm just going to take an image and I'm going to call it demo, and then take an image as well. So that lets me take an image. Okay, so that's the logging. So really what I've tried to do is make it as fast so you can always go back either to the root by pressing the ecoowl, the main part here, to take you back to the data. Data first, so they're basically the same. The next thing you can do is next thing you obviously want to do is logging. So really in the scheme of a day, you'd probably just be going back between those two things: data, logging, data, logging. Okay, the next thing that you can do is you can go to status, and with status it's a detailed thing of the operating system. So anything you ask a computer to do, it takes time. So what I've done here is I've just kept that to a minimum. So you just press update there, and then it'll give you back some more information. The name of the log file, you can see it's demo.demo, the time that it was started, and demo. So you'll see in a minute when I show you the file system that everything's based on time and date, and it's all automatically done and organized, so that we can keep it So here we go. We've tells the settings. The maker setting hasn't come through once again. That's an interesting thing. Tells you the model of the thing, the serial number, the current IP address, CPU load, memory load, and how much free space you've got. So on this machine, there's basically 11 gig of free space. So you should be able to log forever. Well, not log forever, but for a while. Okay, so that's the status. The next one we want to do is we can set the region of interest. So the region of interest is what it is, a region of interest, and it's between two specific channels. So if I'm back at status here and update the status, you can see currently it's set between 1300 and 2400 for that cesium window, or a very rough cesium thing. Okay, so that's what you can set that. The rest of the stuff's really for debugging things. Okay, I'm just going to show you one thing in the debugging. The files, disregard that. That's actually my debugging, which should be gone and will be very shortly. Okay, so this here is the system. This button here, if you press this button, it will shut down the system instantly. So try not to press that. Restart, I haven't used. The reason I've kept the shutdown is because I think that shutdown sequence is a little painful, and I think it's we're adults, we can control this. Depending on the feedback I get, I'll adjust. This could have a little keyword, or you click it 5 times. That's another way of doing it. So anyway, we'll think about that when we've got some feedback from the field. So this is a little web server that is on the board, on the green box. So you need to have the little the box together, but the web server comes from here. All the software's on here, and in fact the reason you're seeing, like I just talked about, the poor state of that web page is because I've got some settings that are still looking for things online, which I need to change, which I will have changed by the time you get this. But that's the web server. So like I said before in the first part, you can use it without the web server, just using the box and the button. But if you add the Wi-Fi web server in without the 4G, you don't need the 4G necessarily. You get a web server, then you have the whole web interface available, and that all comes from here. Okay, so the other bonus that you have is our the other part of the web page is, oops, sorry guys, make sure you can't see what I'm doing, so that's good. So the other part of the web page that is of interest to us is that it serves also let me get it up here. Nope, wrong one. Yeah, let me just change. Okay, sorry about that. But here's the web server that comes on. So basically, with these guys, you can see the web address here. So in this case, it's always going to be the same, and I should clean this up and make it an easier number to remember, or a web address or something. But I'm trying to do things that are offline as well as online, but trying to use online technology. So this will take a little bit of playing around to get right. But anyway, for now, you just type into your web browser the address on the top here, 192.168.0.105, and the double colon, and the port is 500. So typically on a web page you use port 80, so normally you don't type that in. But we're using specific ports, so we're going to use this. So the previous one you saw was at 5003, and this one's at 5000. Anyway, that might sound a bit much, but basically just type in that web address. Okay, so anyway, what do we get for all that web, having to type that long number in? There must be something. There's got to be something in it for us. Okay, there is. Okay, so what we have is basically now we're looking at a file manager. Once again, it's coming from the little green box, and the file manager has your data. Okay, so it's automatically generated. You know, you can't change this, unfortunately, and the reason is because it just becomes a nightmare. So I've tried to make this pretty simple and logically laid out. Okay, so your first directory is the year that we're working in, and luckily we're working in this year, and we're working in June, and then you can see the days that data have been collected. Okay, now I'm going to get in trouble here. I'm going to have a guess because we're working in UTM, and I think we're in Friday. Okay, we're in Friday. Okay, so in the data directories, each directory. So basically, once again, from month and then the day here. You know, I always think once I can remember a day, I can remember roughly what I did. So it helps with the data. Okay, so now I've got 3 files. Logs are just for system logs. You should never have to go there. In fact, you'll never see anything in there. And then the other one is media for photos. So we can see here the demo photo that I took. If I was to click on that, I think I'm going to get a black photo because I took it when I was on the desk. But anyway, let's give it a go. Yes, I'm getting a black I get a black image, but anyway, you'll see here the main thing to note is that the annotation on the top here. You'll see that the things marked with you know, region of interest, counts, position, time, distance from object. Excuse me. So yeah, so that could be a little bit useful. Okay, so the main part of that we're really interested in is our data logs. So if we go data here, we can see our data logs here. And you'll see that there's 2 data logs. One's called demo and one's called auto. Okay, the demo is the one we created from the web page with the prefix demo. Remember we typed in there demo. And then the other one is the auto, which is the one that's created automatically when we press the down button. So yeah, so it's pretty simple. Press the down button, you end up with a new file here. Press the button up, you end up with a new file here in the media. Yeah, so that's how the system works. So once again, you've got a file manager, a web page based file manager, and you can see this one I've actually had this correctly set up for working without the web, because we're not actually on the web, we're on the local green box, little green box. And then the other thing you have available for you is the actual live data. And very soon, hopefully, I'll have mapping and charting available with the same type of interface. In fact, hopefully, all this will be just one web page. But as we're developing it, it's probably relatively prudent to keep them as little separate projects, so that you know, especially with the real-time thing, I want that just to work. I don't ever want that to fail and not work. So yeah, so like I said, hopefully we're on the right track, and soon we'll be able to process this in the field. So you know, my dream is that once you press stopped logging, you'll have a full color map and a 3D, you know, representation of what you've just collected. Maybe I'll do another video shortly on the processing. I've got some prototype software of that already working, so I can show you that. Anyway, I'm going to leave the video there. My voice is getting a bit croaky. Anyway, I hope that's really helped you get an understanding of how to use the system. You know, there's not much more to it than that, other than really putting it together, and I'll make a separate video shortly on how to assemble it in its 2 different configurations. So, once again, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy using the equipment in the field, and hopefully we save the planet. Thanks again. Bye now.